Here to debate Pastor Darrell Scott, Trump 2020 Advisory Board member, and Democratic strategist Monique Pressley. All right, Pastor Scott, let's start with you. Your thought on all of this. The president seemed to distance himself from that chant, but his critics said, look, over the weekend, he basically said that himself, so why bother distancing himself from it?
Well, first of all, as you stated, the president didn't originate the chant. The chant came up, took him by surprise. He processed it and he deflected from it. He didn't want to distance himself from his base, however, in distancing himself from this chant. But, you know, here we are, the left, this fake sensitivity that they have. This president has been attacked, vilified, criticized, condemned by every faction of the left. He's been insulted, berated, everything you can do. And, you know, he takes it, but, you know, they want to have this fake sensitivity. These young ladies, to me, they remind me of the movie Mean Girls. They're a clique. They act like Nancy Pelosi is the mean old president. I mean, a mean old principal. And they're a clique, and they want to intimidate and bully anybody. And if anybody opposes them, they want to cry racism. And so the chant came up. The president distanced himself from it, but he's not going to distance himself from his base trying to appease them.
Monique.
Right. So we have one president of the United States, and I acknowledge that that is Donald J. Trump. Whatever standard we use, whether it's for freshmen members of Congress, they're not girls. They're grown women who are elected officials.
Nancy Pelosi called them girls yesterday.
And I don't care what Nancy Pelosi said about them or what Pastor Scott says about them. What I'm saying is that they are women who are elected officials, and they deserve to be spoken of with respect. And I speak about President Trump in the same way. And this is not that. I hear Pastor Scott laughing. Maybe it's because we share knowledge of the same good book, right? I'm an ordained minister. He's a pastor. We understand that there's this eye for an eye thing that in this administration we seem to have going. But that's not really the way that it's supposed to be done. No. A leader leads, and then people follow. And what we saw last night was people following the leader. We had tweets over the weekend, and they fell right behind those tweets and said, send her back. And even though what he said was that he tried to stop it, we see the video, we know he didn't. What he said is that he started speaking faster. No, he waited 13 seconds until the chanting stopped, and then he kept on with his planned remarks. No, I'm counting, and the people obviously in the crowd were counting because they kept on chanting. And those things just shouldn't happen. Right. I'm not even here to debate whether the president is a racist or not. I think the record is clear. Okay. What has to happen now is we have to figure out. No, I'm saying that it's quite obvious that he's racist.
Listen, like I said, like I said, this fake sensitivity and this fake outrage, y'all need to put that in the can. And don't try to bring up the Bible. In Matthew chapter 23, Jesus called his critics snakes, vipers, white as sepulchres. He told them they were all going to hell. So let's not act like you're not supposed to answer your critics. He answers his critics. They criticized him. Listen, the president is who he is, and he responded the way he responded. And you guys initiate. He's a counterpuncher. They initiated. Those young ladies, I call them girls. They're all young enough to be my daughter. But those young ladies have insulted him even while they were on the campaign trail. They came into office calling him MFers. And so let's not try to act like these are some innocent little dainty little flowers that need to be treated with such respect. They're out here in politics and they're going hard, and when they get slapped back, they have a problem with it.
Yeah, Cory Booker.
They don't seem to have a problem. No, the president is calling them out. He's got the biggest bully pulpit in the world, and he uses it to talk to freshman members of Congress.
Okay, but why
they're using theirs as well?
But
so what? They don't care about being
They all have a bully pulpit.
They're running the party.
But he's supposed to be running the entire free world.
But I gotta
say, he's got all the time in the world for this. It makes no sense.
Then respect that. If he's supposed to run the entire free world, Tell those girls to respect that.
No,
they need to
he's supposed
respect that.
to be. He
Okay.
obviously is.
If they don't respect him for the
He's too
person
busy
he is, they
watching
need to
cable.
respect him for the office he holds. Respect the office
They
there.
respect the office.
They
And
don't
can
even
you
call him
please,
president.
Next
Respect
time, well,
the
listen,
office.
I'm calling him president. Next time you talk to him, Pastor
But then you
Scott,
need to tell
him to
them.
respect
You need
the
to.
office.
You need
That
to tell
would be
them to call
much
him
better
president
work.
too.
Okay.
Why don't you
Right.
tell them to
I
call him
don't have
president?
anything to say to them.
I do have an issue. Like, I actually take them seriously. I don't dismiss them as they're people who are going to come and go. I think they represent a worldview. I take them at their word with what they say and what they want to do, and I'm treating them as serious political figures because I think they think this Democrat Party has gone off the rails. I think they believe that Obama, in some way, didn't fulfill the dream. And Omar has said that in interviews. She thought hope and change was a mirage. She told Politico magazine that. So I think they want the Democrat Party to become something much more activist and much more tilted toward the left. That's kind of obvious. So if they want to be taken seriously, okay. But I don't think if you hit them, they can shrink back to say we're just, you can't criticize us because we're freshmen or we're women of color. You're in the arena, and when I take you seriously, then be able to defend your views. And I think people should try to be respectful when they do it. So I agree with you, Monique, on that. But I want to play something.
Let me say this though, Lord. Let me real quick. If those young ladies had their way, they would overthrow our entire system of American government.
Well,
and replace it with a socialistic agenda.
I think they would agree that the fundamentals of our system need to completely be upended. I mean, their worldview dictates that, so I would agree with you. Cory Booker spoke out. I believe this was today. Important to watch.
I felt like I was watching what my parents watched in black and white. I mean, literally the same language of a Governor Wallace. People who believe that they could use race and bigotry as a sword to try to not only cut down their political enemies, but also as a sword to advance their political agendas.
Monique,
I grew up in the...
Yeah. Let me go to Monique first.
60s.
Hold on 1 second, Pat. Monique, does the AOC and the other three young women, don't they do that too? Don't they use charges of racism as a bludgeon against people with whom they disagree? Even almost Nancy Pelosi the other day.
So it's interesting that you would say that because we started the program tonight and I thought we were in some sort of time warp because we were looking at pictures of and video of Reverend Wright from
They don't come out of nothing,
18
Monique.
years ago.
No, they didn't emerge out of nothing.
Okay, it's not they then. Why don't we call it us? And you and I have a way where we can sometimes agree and sometimes we disagree, but we can meet and have those conversations. I agree with some of the positions of those 4 members of Congress. I don't agree with others. I don't feel like I'm obligated to agree with everything to think that people who are elected officials deserve
Okay, so you don't think
respect.
they use racism as a bludgeon?
You don't use racism when there is racism.
Okay.
If you are talking about the existence of racism, then that means that there's something
we gotta go. We got like 5 seconds here. Go ahead.
It's funny they would use George Wallace and Bull Connor because they were a face of the Democratic Party in the 60s when I was growing up. They were the face of racism. Joe Biden probably hung out. George Wallace was probably Joe Biden's mentor or something. Because George Wallace and Bull Connor were the face of the Democratic Party in the 60s during the Civil Rights struggle. So why would they even use those guys as a reference? Those are their heroes. That's their foundation. Those are their roots.
All right, panel, we got to go. We're way over. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us.